Wide Open by Taye Alvis. I like to keep my window wide open when I sleep, even in the winter when it's freezing cold outside. It gives me a reason to bundle up, and the soft sounds of nocturnal street life bouncing off the red brick of my building help lull me to sleep. Once in a while, an ambulance rushes by or a drunken fool collapses on the steps underneath my window, and I wake up only to hear them calling out for their long-lost love. Or something like that. I don't mind it though. It's even comforting in its own strange way, knowing that even as you sleep, life goes on. In any case, I'd usually check the time and then head back to bed, careless and comfortable, waiting for morning to strike. But something was different this time. This time, I woke up suddenly, but not to anything in particular. It was silent. No street sweeper or fire truck, no hiss of an alley cat or drunken fool at my stoop. I woke up to just complete and utter silence, as if someone had gently nudged me awake. I opened my eyes and scanned the room. It was dark, of course, but nothing seemed to be out of place. I rolled my head over and looked towards my window. No sounds of anything. It was as if the city itself had gone to sleep. I was about to close my eyes again when I caught sight of something in the corner of my room, no more than a few feet from my bed. I could see something moving, ever so slightly. I watched as the dark outline of a figure expanded and contracted, slowly, methodically. It looked as if it were breathing, or maybe shivering in the cold air. My muscles tensed up, and my heart started beating quicker and deeper. I was worried it would hear me breathing, so I held my breath. If I were sleeping in a hammock, I'd feel as if I were being stalked by a panther. I was being stalked by something. Whatever it was, I could feel its eyes fixated on me. I was hoping it would think I was asleep, so I tried to lay still. Suddenly, it started to get closer. It took a step towards me, and through a crack of white street light, I could see its mangled foot with its toenails ripped off, bloodied and rotted. I squirmed a bit, sliding my body away from the edge of the bed, pushing my back up further against the wall. I watched as the figure moved even closer, the bit of street light revealing a grotesque form. It was human in shape, but short, very short. Its hair was thin and pale, his body skinny and stained. I watched it as it inched closer and closer, each step taking 1,000,000 years to reach me. What do I do? Do I scream? I curled even tighter against the wall and watched as the little man took another step closer before finally ducking below my bed. I lost sight of him completely. I looked towards my feet and tucked my legs in, just in case it tried to sneak around and grab me. My heart was vigorously trying to pump blood. Finally, I decided to take a look to see if it were there or if it could have escaped somehow. I inched closer to my bed, careful of my hands, careful not to look too far just in case it would try and jump up and surprise me. My cotton sheets stretched as I pushed my hand into them, crawling towards the edge of the mattress. My eyes pierced the dark, but I saw no sign of movement, which worried me even more. Finally, I reached the edge and I peeked my eyes over. I looked down and there was nothing there. I even reached out with my hand and touched the ground. Just carpet. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. I looked around the room, but it was as empty as the night before. I let out a little chuckle, relieved to be alone again, when I felt something kick the bottom of my mattress. I tried to swing around when suddenly something erupted from beneath me. My mattress came flying up and over my head, tossing me through the air. I landed with a crash, and my room shook as I hit the floor. My mattress came tumbling down after me and pinned me to the ground. Something landed on top of it and pushed down even harder. I could feel the air escaping my lungs, so I desperately tried to push myself free. I finally managed to pull down the one side just enough to poke my head out. I gasped for air and looked up to see the little man had grown. His arms extended out like tent poles and reached around both ends of the mattress, still pinning me to the ground. He looked at me with lifeless eyes and began to let out a violent scream. The kind of scream that rang in your ears. The kind of unrelenting, pulsating, barbarous scream you might hear in the middle of the night that fills your heart with fear. He screamed in my face, goggle-eyed and desperate. His mouth started to grow inhumanely wide. His jaw unhinged and tore at the seams. I could see all the way to his stomach. I reached up to grab a hold of him, but my arm went straight down his throat. I could feel the muscles in his neck contract, pulling me in further and further, and somehow still screaming. I grabbed a hold of the underside of the bed with my free hand, but the cotton sheets came loose. His throat grabbed hold of me tighter, and I thought I might be swallowed whole. His insides were wet and warm. I tried to thrash my hand about to knock him loose, but I grabbed a hold of something. I could feel it flexing in my hand, sending blood pumping through his veins and feasting through his arteries. I grabbed a hold of his heart. I wrapped my hand tighter around it and began to squeeze it tightly. Bits of tissue tried to escape through my fingers, but still I tightened my grip. His eyes continued to pierce me, but I could see them starting to widen. I watched as they bulged and tried to exit his skull. They grew and grew, widening as he continued to scream even louder, until finally I grabbed hold even tighter and they popped out of his head completely. His scream stopped, and his body went limp. I could feel him fall lifelessly onto the mattress above me, and I pulled my arm from his gullet. His arms retracted and his body began to shrink. It shrank and shrank and shrank until finally nothing remained. At last, I could sleep.